All right, there we go. We're back, Jason.
Glad to be here. Fresh off of vacation. We got the new 3-minute timer, and I got the remote here. I got 1 job, 2 jobs if you count the intro.
And I've been working 6 candidates, man.
6 candidates. That's why you had to reduce the time, huh?
Yeah, there's 3 seats. So, yeah, we'll get to that. So, all right, this is the 2023 Universal City Council Member Candidate Forum sponsored by the Texas Tri-County Chamber of Commerce. The TriCo vision is to build opportunities with a strong foundation and foster economic prosperity for Texas Tri-County communities. All right, Jason, let's call this podcast to order.
Let's do it.
We still don't have a quorum, but we're getting there.
And we don't have a gavel. Oh, do you do that with you don't do that with a gavel?
Yeah, I'm supposed to hit the gavel, but all right, here we go. Let's call this podcast to order. The stakes are high right now for Universal City, so pay attention. There are 3 seats up for grab. 6 candidates, right? This is a free-for-all with the top 3 vote-getters winning the blue UC shirt and a seat on the dais.
Free-for-all? What does that mean?
There's 6 candidates. The top 3 vote-getters, I kind of like it. The top 3 vote-getters get in.
Wow. It's a Wild West out in UC, man.
It is pretty much, right. Yeah, and like I said, the top 3 vote-getters get the blue shirt and a seat on the dais. That's a big deal. Come get the
blue shirt.
The blue shirt. All right. So what we have is incumbent Bear Goolsby and Dick Neville are trying to retain their spots. Councilman William Shelby did not throw his hat back in the ring this time. Ashton Bulman, Bernard Rubal, Richard Edwards, and Christina Fitzpatrick are the other 4 that get us to the 6 candidates. Before we get started, let's take care of some housekeeping.
What you got?
Are you registered to vote?
You know it. Everywhere. I'm registered in UC, so be nice to me. I'm registered in Shirt, Cibolo. I'm registered in, hell, I was even going to be registered for JISD.
If you're not registered, I got some bad news for you. It's too late. Deadline to register was April 6th. Early voting starts April 24th. Early voting ends May 2nd. Election day is May 6th. May 6th, we're going to storm the UC City Hall if we don't like the results.
Let's do this.
All right. We had to restrict the freedom clock, Jason. It was getting a little out of control. The Judson, we had 3 candidates, and it was like 2 hours. I fell asleep 3 times, and I was a part of it.
Yeah, the freedom clock. Ironically, we had to reduce the freedom by a minute.
The freedom clock is no longer free.
Well, it's just a minute.
But for $50, we're allowing all the candidates to buy 1 extra minute.
Per question or for the whole?
Each question's $50, man. We got new lights in here, and
I like your way you think.
So, all right, here we go. Let's get started. Podcasting from the Sound of Freedom Studios. This is Local Politics. Question number 1. Who are you and why are you running?
All right. So my name's Ashton Bulman. I'm 34 years old. I've lived in Universal City for 6 years. My husband and I have 3 kids. We homeschool all of our children. My oldest is currently a senior. He'll be going to college in the fall, which is very exciting. And that's a little bit about me. I'm running because I started going to city council meetings about 2 years ago. And what initially brought me was the trash, losing our alley trash service. What I found out was after talking to every single one of my neighbors on our dead end street, I found out really quickly that everyone was upset about losing their trash alley service. However, a bunch of them couldn't come and speak at the city council meeting. So I took it upon myself to speak for all 14 of my neighbors. And after going to that meeting, I realized that a lot of the citizens aren't considered like they should be. City council makes a lot of important decisions, but I think it often doesn't reach out for feedback from the citizens before they actually vote. So I believe it's time for a change. I want to be the empathetic, accessible, and easy to talk to candidate. I'd like to be the person that people feel they can be comfortable talking to, even if they're an outsider. And if they feel like they're not being considered, I want them to know that I do care. I want to break things down for people in a really easy, accessible, transparent way. That way, if you ask a question, I can give you a really simple answer as opposed to something that's a little bit convoluted and hard to understand.
Well, I'm super happy to have this opportunity to meet with y'all and to have the opportunity to talk with the residents of Universal City. My name is Christina Fitzpatrick. I've lived in the area for the past 7 years. We moved to Universal City about 5 years ago. I have great experience in both human services in working with at-risk youth, and I worked for a while on a crisis hotline, which kind of prepared me for any situation. And then I moved into more of a business background. I worked for TD Ameritrade for several years, moving my way up to a director in the marketing department, overseeing kind of regulatory mailings and financial disclosures to our clients. So just a lot of responsibility and a lot of great experience. Currently, I'm working as a project manager for a CEO out in California. I do that part-time, and I love it. My husband and I have 4 kids. We've been coming to the Universal City area for 20 years. We started coming back in the 90s. His parents lived here. They retired here after they got out of the Air Force. So we've been spending summers and Christmases here with our children for years. We ended up moving into his parents' home 5 years ago, and we love it. We decided to keep the family home just because we were so in love with the area. We love Universal City. I think that it's a small town in a big city. I love all of the opportunities that then provides us. It's nice. I hear sometimes the community is referred to as a Mayberry, and I think that that's a great place. I want to be in a community that helps other people and that cares about its citizens. So I'm running for Universal City because I want to be a part of making the community a great one.
My name is Bernard Rubal. I'm a 40-plus year resident of Universal City. Retired approximately 2 years ago, started going to council meetings, and basically at that point was engaged in relatively small things like trying to get graffiti taken care of, trying to get the city responsible for maintaining the area behind the new sound barrier. And as I attended council meetings, I got more and more involved, presenting more and more often in council meetings, to the point where I'm a pretty regular person there, presenting on behalf of not only myself, but also the residents in Universal City.
I am Bear Goolsby. You'll see me on the ballot as S. Bear Goolsby. My first name is Stacy, but very few people are allowed to call me that. The reason I'm running is because I love my town. There's so much great about it. It needs to be tweaked here and there, but we love our town. Oh, sure. Hey, thanks for the extra 10 seconds. I love my community. It's a great place. We put down roots in Universal City, 20 years ago. We've had 3 kids in the same location. I came from Lubbock. It was small. I knew people everywhere I went. When I first got, to San Antonio and then into Universal City, I didn't know people everywhere. So I started kind of getting involved, National Night Out, became the block captain for that. Got involved with the school, got involved with church, got involved with, everything. I'm an architect. Some of my clients are in Universal City, and we had the ability to go to EDC, the Economic Development. At that time, it was IDC. So I saw what that was about. Got involved with the EDC, and then just kept being involved with the city and seeing where these areas. I think they could function better. So how can I do that? And then back to that. I have this philosophy. It's stand up or shut up, and which is either work towards fixing it or just hold your tongue. I mean, you can talk to your elected officials about fixing things, but don't sit there and bash people because it's not the way you want it. So that stand up or shut up, or as my brother says, quit talking about it, be about it. So that's kind of why I started running. I think that as an architect, I have a different perspective than a lot of people. We all have our own experiences. We all have our own ideas about things, but I see a business side. I see an aesthetic side. We have, in school where there's training for this type of, community growth and aspects like that. So I have a different take that's also got education based in this. I felt like my perspective brings something special to the table that I don't see in a lot of municipalities. I remember years ago, one of my professors was like, more architects need to be involved in the city side of it. And that's always stuck in the back of my head. I didn't want it. I didn't want to be involved in the politics, anything like that. But seeing my community, how I thought it would benefit from my experiences and my voice.
My name's Richard Edwards, and I'm running for city council because I think our leaders have been a little bit misguided. Our city's going off track. If it's not put back on course, I think I don't know how many years it'll take, but eventually the city's going to lose its soul, and it won't be what Universal City is.
All right. Question number 2. What makes Universal City a great place to live?
Well, the one thing I love about Universal City is it's small. I like the small town feel. I like that everybody feels like everyone knows each other. We have a ton of parks and a ton of playgrounds, and I think that's really awesome for such a very small spot. I love the sense of community, and I really enjoy how many volunteer opportunities there are in the city in such a small area.
What a great question. First and foremost, I think the citizens make it a great place to live. I love the mix of everybody that lives here. You've got retired military, you've got young people, you just have a great cross selection of people that have chosen to live in Universal City. My family's got an extensive background in military service, and so that's been really important to us. My husband actually was the first graduating class out at Randolph Air Force Base. So that's kind of it. We have strong ties to the area. I think that the fact that our city government, our city manager does such a great job of creating events that bring people to the community, but also help the community interact with each other. I feel like they really are progressive in thinking, what do we do? How do we grow our community when we're so landlocked? I mean, Universal City is a really interesting place because we can't grow anymore. We're as big as we can get, but we can do more with what we have. And I think that the city is trying to do that. And I love that that's going on. I love the things that are going on in the Aviation District and the area behind HEB. I think there's great things that are coming for Universal City. So I see us as a great community right now. And I see us segueing into an even better community and one that is going to be around for generations, and that my kids are going to like to bring their kids to come visit us. So that's kind of what I like about Universal City.
Oh, the first order question is the neighborhoods. Essentially, it doesn't matter where you go in Universal City. There is a bonding, whether it's a high property value area, medium or low property value area. The residents are so special because they essentially take care of their own community for the most part. And so basically, I think by far and away, my neighbors and the residents of, in my case, Coronado Village, are just special people. So
It's a small community. We have all of the benefits of living near a big town. There's things to do, places to go. But you don't have to leave Universal City for that. I mean, we have a lot of activities in Universal City. We have our splash pad. I mean, that thing has just gone bonkers with the kids out there. We've got our linear parks. We've got our golf course. We've got our library. We've got restaurants and things like that. I mean, being on the EDC, we've seen a lot of restaurants coming in, a lot of new things that came in, the jumpy place, all of these things that have we've kind of helped develop. So we see that, but it's the community that I really just I enjoy so much. There's it's a safe place. It's small town. I mean, there are people that compared it to Mayberry, and that's great. If that's your view of it, fantastic. But that makes you happy, fantastic. There are people that don't like that it's compared to Mayberry. I'm like, okay, well, that's your understanding. That's your opinion. You don't have to like that comparison, but I love the small town feel. The fact that if I have a problem, I can talk to anybody to remedy our issues. There's something to be said for that. We didn't always live in a small town, but I really do like it that we're here.
What I just said, it's soul, it's wholesome, it's quiet, it's peaceful. In the past, council members have likened Universal City to Mayberry, referring to the Andy Griffith Show back in the 60s. What's ironic about that is because they say one thing, but the actions where the city is going is closer to Pottersville, if you understand that reference. Cities are created to serve the people. A municipal government is a public service corporation. Its mandate is to safeguard the population and improve the overall quality of life. That's my philosophy. But when the city withholds information from the public or otherwise misleads them, they're not offering a benefit to the population. When they fund projects which in the long term could be detrimental to the city and the people, while underfunding basic maintenance needs of the neighborhoods, that's not what I consider good service. And when they find a loophole in the law so they can get around competitive bid requirements, that's just wrong. So I'm running for city council because I want to change that. I want to actually lead the people, not rule over them. I'm a constitutionalist, and I guess I'd say my three best qualities. I'm empathetic, truly empathetic. I have a good heart, and I want to save our city. That's it.
All right, question 3. What are the top 2 priorities of your campaign?
So my first priority is obviously that the UC is landlocked. So our town is landlocked. Everyone knows that. For some reason, because we're landlocked, the city feels like we have to have really high property taxes. And one thing that's really important to me is I feel like what I bring to the table is I'm a creative problem solver and I'm very fiscally responsible. Instead of just raising property taxes every year and hurting the citizens, I feel like there's better opportunities out there to bring revenue in other than property tax. I also think that means looking at our city council budget every year, taking things that are government waste and that are not vital to the people and making sure that we're changing that system. Make sure we're not spending things on things that doesn't affect the greater good. That's my whole thing, is we should only be spending money on things that affect the most amount of people, not the least amount of people. My second one is probably the permitting process. Can't tell you how many people I've heard complain about the permits in Universal City, how that process works. The re-permitting process is just almost as long as getting the initial permit process. It seems like it's really overbearing for Universal City as opposed to other cities. I feel that a lot of people have an issue with that. It's hard getting businesses in when you have all these hoops to jump through. It's hard to get homeowners in when they have all these things to jump through. I would like to update our process. I'd like to go over it and make sure we can try to figure out a way to make it more friendly for homeowners and businesses.
Of my campaign, I really see making sure that our city manager and our city staff have the resources that they need and are empowered to help continue to sustain and improve on our Universal City. And what that means is that we need to focus on fire and safety, and we need to focus on street maintenance. All of those things are important, but bottom line is that comes from the city council empowering the city and giving them the resources that they need to execute in those areas. And so my focus is really making sure the city has the correct resources. I don't want to drill it down into streets are what's most important to me, because streets are important, but that doesn't bump in front of the police and fire. It doesn't bump in front of the golf course. It doesn't bump in front of the library and other services. I think all of that is what makes a community great. And so that's definitely one of my big priorities. And the other priority I would say is making sure that people are aware of what's going on. So the communication between the citizens and the government. I know they spend a lot of time posting and making sure the information is available. Short of walking around and knocking on everybody's door, you're never going to be able to get everybody in the know about what's going on in Universal City. But we have to encourage our citizens, and I'm not sure what that looks like, but we have to encourage them to make sure that they are educating themselves, finding out what is on the agendas, looking at the tapes if they want to, doing the research on their own, making an appointment to go see Kim and talk about what's going on in the community. All of those things are so important, but so I just think the communication and making people aware. I'm amazed at the number of people that have an opinion, but the information that they're basing that opinion is just a little wrong. And then does that make their opinion wrong? No. What it does is it just doesn't give them the whole picture so that they're not able to process all of the points that need to be considered when they're giving their opinion.
The top two priorities, well, we've got a number, but essentially I'll hit the one that is most current, and that is conversion of the venue tax back to essentially the general fund and hopefully to support infrastructure needs of the city. The venue tax, by definition, is essentially a tax that's dedicated to an enterprise operation that is to bring income into the event. So whether it's in our case the golf course or the convention center, essentially it's a fee that is charged to get into that event. And so the venue tax that we started with in 2002 essentially will have paid off the golf course and the convention center. And it's now time to revert that back to the general fund, and particularly dedicated to our infrastructure needs that actually have been deferred for a long period of time. Number two is address the waste management sole source contract. Our city pretty much honors competitive bidding processes. However, the sole source waste management project evolved from a point in time where we were transitioning from the prior contract to the present contract, and in that contract there were many compromises in service that were proposed to the citizens. Essentially, there was no real time for citizen input on that waste management contract, and it resulted in quite a bit of fervor in our community to try to return the services that once were provided by waste management. When I asked the city administrators essentially for a statement of contractual work between the first and the second reading of the waste management contract, they said there was none. There are only general guidelines. Now, how can you have a contract that under general guidelines that then is accepted as an exception to a competitive bid policy? Doing my homework, contacting Republic and Tiger Waste Management, I found that they indeed would have provided competitive bids and maintain even alleyway services, which is one of the things that's been compromised. So I think that's a big item to stop. That is, if an exception to policy for sole source contracts is considered, is entertained, council should look carefully at whether that exception is really needed.
The number one is I try to be a reasonable voice on council. I try not to be the fringe either way, depending on what we're talking about. I try to have an understanding of what the issues are and then find a solution that works for the majority of people and for the betterment of the city. I'm not saying that somebody's opinion doesn't matter. I'm saying that we have to take that and temper it. So there are people with agendas and they will run crazy with it. So I try to be a kind of a cohesive voice on council. That's what I look to bring to this. And I want to keep that in our areas of, the golf course, which is a hot topic for us right now. There are people that think that the golf course shouldn't be around. There are people that think that that it should be self-sufficient. I'm one of those. I feel the golf course needs to be self-sufficient. I believe that we also need to see what has been working for the golf course and make sure that that is not just left to die, but what can we do here to make sure that that is able to maintain and improve itself? When I got on the council, 8 years ago, it was in the red. Since then, we've seen it improving, and we've seen it get into the black, and we've seen it now being able to maintain itself. There are aspects that will eventually need improvement, and that's one of those discussions I want us to have as a council: is how do we want to do that? The other piece that I really try to do is I'm big on the economic development in our town. And how do we get there? That's with the aviation district in my mind. School tells us that we've got the education side of it tells us there's different ways of doing it. When I met with the group that was coming in with the idea of basically what we call a datum point with nodes, let the aviation district become a node, which is essentially a destination, and let that help to draw people through Universal City to a destination location. So if we took Pat Booker as our route, we look at areas that along Pat Booker that we can drop these different nodes. And that's what I'm looking for, is improvement of the aviation district and helping out with keeping our taxes low and reasonable.
Number one is communication. I just spoke about withholding information. Just about a month or so ago, Councilman Shelby lamented that it's tough being a city council member and representing the people when the people don't understand 30% of what they know. I agree with him, and I think it's an outrage. And there's a reason we don't know. Even those of us who attend council meetings and want to know. You shouldn't, FOIA requests should be for researching needed documents, not for finding out what the city's doing behind your back. We have a electronic digital marquee at the corner of Universal City Boulevard and Kitty Hawk. The city could use that to broadcast agenda items and issues that people might find important, so that when they're stopped there at the traffic light, they can look over and there it is. We can't expect them to go on the city website to find out what's going on. And if you've been on our city website, you practically need an archaeology degree to be able to find information. I don't know why it's that way, whether it's design or just how it's put together, but it's hard to find information. I want to see that people get the information that is put in their face and they don't have to go looking for it. I think then we'll have more community involvement. The second thing is we need to change direction. There's a thing called the Aviation District Master Plan. And if people will go to my website, groundedlogic.com, scroll down to the bottom of the page, click on UC News, scroll down to the bottom of that page, you'll find a pretty good dissertation about how I really feel about the Aviation District Master Plan.
Question number 4. What are you learning on the campaign trail?
A lot of people say that I campaigned way too early. However, I would like to point out that Universal City is not in districts, so we cover the entire amount of Universal City. So I had a kickoff campaign the end of February. It was very well attended. I had about 25 people show up, and we turned it into a question and answer, and they pelted me with questions, and I answered, and it was a lot of fun. So we started that kickoff campaign the end of February. Since then, my husband and I have been going door to door in Universal City. We've gone almost every weekend other than Easter weekend. We've gone to all the different neighborhoods in Universal City because that was really important to me, that we don't just hit one neighborhood or one area, that we get to every single spot in Universal City where there's registered voters. I've personally talked to over 600 houses myself so far. We have another about 500 to do, but not everyone answers their door. I've put out 106 yard signs. I have 200 though. But my realistic goal is to paint the entire town in pink with about 140 signs. And the reason why I bring up my signs, because I'm very proud of it, is that 98% of my signs went out, not because someone sent me a message and said, hey, I like what you stand for, I want a sign, or hey, Ashton, we're friends, give me a sign. 98% of those signs that are out meant I knocked on someone's door, told them who I was, explained my values and what I stand for, and then they've wanted a sign. So I feel like I've really earned my signs. I feel like for me, that was just really important. When it comes to what I've learned, so many things. People have issues with safety. People have issues with, how the city's run. The permitting process is another huge one. I've learned that a lot of these things can be solved with just transparency and knowing the right people to talk to. I helped one family with a really important safety issue. They had a fence that the city owned, and it needed to be made higher because these kids were jumping it, and then they were going down like a giant gorge with rocks and all this really scary stuff. And they had been trying to get people to help them through the city, but they weren't going to the right people. That same exact day, I stopped in at Randy. He does our public works. And I said, hey, listen, this fence needs to be 6 feet high. We got to help these people out. It's really dangerous. And he was able to fix that within minutes. And he was like, oh, we just didn't know. We didn't realize that it was that short and that they were having an issue. So I feel like a lot of things in Universal City are like that. You can easily just know who to talk to, speak to that person, and then help them. So I think that's a big one. Like I said, I'm going to continue to go door to door. And when it gets the week of early voting, I'm going to go out back again. And when everyone starts to see the pink balloons in town, you'll know that it's time to vote. As soon as you've seen all those pink balloons on signs, it means get your booty out there and vote.
One of the things that I've been learning on the campaign trail is that people are really engaged in what's going on in our community, more so than I've ever seen before. I think people have started hearing about the venue tax issue or the street maintenance, and people are coming to the table with opinions and they want to talk about it. But they're also interested in their community life, and people are talking about the streets and sometimes even sidewalks. I mean, it's amazing what you get to as you're out walking around and talking with people and meeting folks, and they're like, what's most important to you? Where are you on these issues? And I'm really excited to sit down and talk with people and just have that conversation and find out what brought them to Universal City and what are the things that they like the most and what do they want to see the city focus on and how do they want to see it evolve. And I think everybody is interested in how do we keep our property tax as low as possible, but still be able to fund our city correctly. So it's really how do we create ways to bring money into the community without repeatedly raising taxes on our citizens, because nobody wants that. But it's going to continue to be an issue. The cost of running a city is not going to be going down. It's only going to be increasing. The cost of goods and services that we need to buy to support our city infrastructure are only going up. And we need to be prepared to figure out, how do we continue to support our city in creative ways? And so I think that's been really interesting to figure out what people really want to talk about. They want to talk about the big things, and then they want to talk about streetlights and speed bumps. And all of that is important. And no matter what somebody brings up, that's the issue to them. That's what's important to them. That's what's driving their vote. And you need to figure out what matters to people, so that you can figure out, how do you try to support them if you're elected as a candidate?
Oh, quite a bit. Basically, I find that the concerns of citizens in neighborhoods are, there are many that are very common, and there are some that are somewhat unique. The common things, of course, are taxes. Basically, Universal City has a threefold higher a tax rate for property values than you do in Selma here. And we have essentially a sales tax rate that's 2%, where your sales tax rate is only 1.5%. So it doesn't matter whether you have a high value house or a low value house, taxes are an issue. But what it affects most, however, are those people that are just being able to essentially, I won't say get by, that's probably the wrong word. Let me readdress that and say the median income of the people in Universal City for an individual income is only $31,000. $31,000. Now, if you stretch that over 12 months, pay mortgages, you find you don't have a lot left over. And so whenever you get hit, if you're a property owner, whenever you get hit with a ad valorem tax, a property tax that's in the order of 0.57 mils in that order, approximate average for a 10-year period type thing, that hurts. It's the difference between living in Selma and paying on a $100,000 house $200, and living in Universal City for a $100,000 house and paying $600 approximately. So basically, that's coming out of the pockets of individuals, and essentially the cross-the-board income, as I say, in Universal City, the median income, 50% of the people make at or less than $31,000 for individual incomes.
There's a part of Universal City that is looking to be divisive, and instead of working, together, we're going to try to really throw out some crazy ideas and see what sticks, and what doesn't stick, we're going to decide that's going to be the hill we're going to fight for. And again, like I said a minute ago, I'm about compromise and let's work towards something. So that's one aspect I've learned. I've learned that a lot of people also don't understand that, kind of what we're doing in Universal City. They think that we're just snapping up properties left and right. No, we have a very detailed focus on what we're doing. We're not taking, especially when I'm talking about the Aviation District, people think that we're going in and making people sell to us. I can't make you sell your property. I mean, I can with eminent domain, but that's not a winning proposition in Texas. I mean, we just don't like that here. So our thing is we're buying properties as they're available. We're not paying. We've got some that want too much. So we just, our plan has to be able to change. That's one thing that I've been trying to educate people on. Another is involvement. A lot of people don't understand that they can volunteer for different things around the city. There's all sorts of activities that we have. they also expect a phone call or somebody to knock on their door and tell them when there's a city event. It doesn't happen. You check the website, check, look at our sign that the city has on Kitty Hawk. That's how you get that information, is you do have to be active. We're not going to attack you with information. And then there's other things that people are, they're misconstrued about. And, like when there was a children's shelter that was for immigrant children, people thought that, the city was trying to bring this in. It wasn't the city. There was a developer who did a legal request that the city legally has to review and put forth towards council. And to turn around and say, well, the council brought this in, that was frustrating to me. Yes, I did bring it in so that we could tell it no. I mean, that's the thing, is that people don't understand how city works, trying to educate people on some of the processes. But I can't take everybody through the whole thing on every door and every phone call.
The most enlightening thing I learned has to do with our golf course. Since I've been going to council meetings for 2 years now, it's just accepted that our golf course is a money hole. It's always been one. It's always going to be one. We've tried private management. The city's doing such a wonderful job with their management. We're doing everything we can so that it loses less money. I was speaking about this as I was out block walking. And the gentleman interrupted me. He was very intelligent. He was a successful businessman. He owns a steel erecting company, making steel buildings and such. And he asked me, what, are you against the golf course? At this time, I noticed he had Callaways on the side of his shirt. I was talking to a golfer. So I wanted to convey to him exactly what I meant. I don't want to close down the golf course, but the golf course is supposed to be a moneymaker, all right? That's a project. The people paid for it because it was supposed to pay for itself, and then add to the revenue of the city to help ease the burden on the taxpayers. And it's never done that. So let's just get real. That's the deal. He was confused because he golfs at Randolph Brooks, he golfs at Alamo Golf Trails, and he golfs at Olympia Hills. He used to be a paid member at Olympia Hills, but he has since dropped that because it's so difficult to get a tee time. If I remember correctly, the easiest tee time, which he said these days there ain't no such thing, but the easiest tee time is at Alamo Golf Trails. Alamo Golf Trails is less expensive. Alamo Golf Trails schedules their tee times further apart. Alamo Golf Trails is kept up and is turning a profit for the city of San Antonio. Now, when you add all this up, and I'm a thinker, something's not right. It's as if we've been sold a bill of goods and just accepted that it loses money. The only thing I can come to is, if it's losing money, why? It's not because of the golf course itself. All right? So it's either management or worse. It's not enough to redirect that earmarked money to streets repair, which I think we need to do. No, it should be making money, and that's what we need to do. We just can't accept this losing money. Something needs to be changed. People need to be held accountable. And yes, we can keep our golf course, and it can make money too.
All right, question 5. What are the biggest challenges facing council right now, and do you have some solutions?
I personally believe one of the issues facing our city is transparency. Some examples are our agenda goes out in not enough time for citizens, and I even think Universal City, to get the answers that they need. That agenda goes out and you only have 2 full city days to actually talk to employees, and that's usually not enough time to schedule an appointment with someone. The other issue that comes with transparency is our city doesn't hold a candidate forum. Other city councils hold candidate forums for their candidates. They really push getting to know who you're electing. They also publish immediately when someone runs for city council. They publish their name and their then their campaign file whatever, the letter that you do. Our city doesn't do that. So you don't find out who's elected or who's even running until after it closes, which I think is just a shame. My last example that we don't have about transparency, which really my list is pretty long because we're just not very transparent, is we're not putting the word out in other things other than technology friendly things. So my suggestion would be putting out information on our water bills. That way we can help out those citizens who don't get on the internet all the time or aren't as tech friendly. I feel like there's ways that we can do things to get information out that's not just technology based. And I think the city should really look into that as an option. Safety. Sorry. So another issue I've come across while going door to door, and I just think is a pressing issue, is safety. The amount of concerns that people have about speeding and car break-ins seems to be really high. I firmly believe that Universal City needs more police out patrolling the streets. I know that it's been really, really hard for everyone to retain employees and keep employees, but I think that we need to look into better police health benefits, look at their salaries, and how to compete with other cities to get more police officers on the ground in Universal City. Making sure that we have enough police patrolling, not just in those higher positions. We seem to be stacked really heavy at the top of those higher desk positions, but I think we need more people out on the streets. That way we can get some of those issues like speeding and break-ins under control.
I definitely think the council has got some interesting things coming up on its plate. And I will be honest, I'm not going to be naive and say that I've got the solution or the answer. But I see the venue tax and the golf course as being a driving issue for our community. It's been controversial from the get-go. As a matter of fact, my father-in-law was an active streetwalker to vote against the golf course when it was being voted on back in the 90s. He did not want it. He said it's going to be a drain on the city. We've got golf courses that we can play. Let's not bring it in. It passed. The golf course passed. It was approved. And, it ended up being a drain on the city. And the city had to respond and figure out, how do we support this? How do we make this work? We have the golf course. It's a big operation. What do we do with it? And I think that that's continuing to be an issue today, but in a different way. Now the golf course is operating in the black. They're making money with their golf rounds. They're also making money as an event center. But I'll say that I think they scrambled, and now we're going to have to figure out, are we going to invest in this and make this more of an infrastructure? And those are the conversations that council's having. And those aren't easy conversations because they represent dollars and cents for what some put as an elective sport, or, kind of not everybody plays golf. But no matter what, it's bringing people into our community. It's bringing folks spending money. It's bringing sales tax in. So I think the council right now is having to balance, how do we support the golf course? What do we do with the venue tax dollars? I see those as two big issues. I think our street maintenance, and then the other big issue I think we have going forward is kind of our first responder services and emergency support. As we're growing our community, and just as crime is evolving, we have to keep our pulse on that so we don't lose control of that.
Yes. The biggest challenge for council is to prioritize the needs of the city. Prioritize the needs of the city. So essentially we have great programs, and you've been involved in advancing essentially our economic development area type thing. However, there have been so many deferred needs in our city, particularly streets, and even sewers and even alleyways and so forth, that it's time to reset a little bit. Okay, so basically, that probably is the biggest thing, to get council to say, police, fire and safety, infrastructure, and health and safety issues for the citizens type thing, and keep those as the highest priority when they consider funding, supporting budgets. Our annual budget process is tremendously flawed. Essentially, council members are given a water hose treatment one evening a week that essentially becomes an incomprehensible amount of information to try to process and make priorities out of. So essentially, if we can do that in council, that would be wonderful.
The biggest challenge right now is the golf course and the aviation district, making sure that we continue the funding for that. The golf course, and let's be honest, our infrastructure. Those are some of the biggest challenges I see. I feel like we've got a good rapport out there now with our with the business community. I feel like that a lot of builders and people that in the past had thought Universal City was not a place to come and try to build something. We've totally changed that perspective out there in the builder community. With our permit process, yes, any permit process is frustrating, but ours is actually where you can talk to people and work through those problems. The budgeting with the golf course, yeah, there are opportunities for us to adjust the tax situation. We're talking about trying to put it back to the voters. As far as, do we continue with our sales tax, a portion of that going to the golf course? But, the more research I do on this, the more I understand that it doesn't even have to happen. We can adjust that to where it's able to handle different aspects of the city's budget and not be dedicated at the golf course. We've been fighting for the golf course for years to become self-sufficient and to not be a burden on the citizens. And at this point, it has taken a long time for that to happen. It wasn't what it was originally sold as. It didn't turn out. It happens. But I don't want to throw away something that we've got so much invested in, because it's frustrating me what it's done to us to this point. I want to make sure that we see where it is, open our eyes to it, look at it, understand that this thing has possibilities, and it is on an upward trend as far as taking care of itself. When I went out there and met with them, with staff, and walked through what we can do out there, I see opportunities to make this a more inclusive area, a place for a park, other fun game type golf related experiences that can be open to the community. And staff was interested in looking at that, which I think would really help the optics of the golf course. Even though it is open to everybody, people feel like it's not. And then, I discussed the aviation district earlier. So
I said earlier, cities are created to serve the people. The philosophy should be, first, do no harm. Second, how can our actions, things that we do on the city council, how is that going to improve the overall quality of life for the average resident? If we just focus on that, not our own personal wants, what we think is best, I think we'll go a long way in actually having a good, the best maybe even, city council in all of Texas. They need to just always remember, what it's really about. It's about improving the way of life for everyone. And you know what? If doing this means we have to do less of something else, then that's what we have to do. We need to maintain our police department. We need to maintain the fire department. We don't necessarily need to pay city administrators exorbitant salaries. I can't think of a single rational reason to pay any city administrator more than 3 times the median income of the average resident. That's just not right. Why are some people struggling to pay their bills and somebody else is living large off of a percentage of their tax money?
Question 6. If you could get rid of one permit, what would it be?
Oh, the fence permit. It's so easy. You should not have to pay $80 to fix 2 slats in your fence. Drives me crazy. I just don't understand it. That would be the very first one I get rid of.
In my mind, the most basic one that I don't necessarily understand is the fence one. If you have more than five boards, you have to pull a permit. And that seems very minutia and not time well spent for people. I agree. If you're putting up a new fence, pull a permit. But if you're making repairs, I'm not sure what's driving the 5 boards. So that would be the permit I would pull.
Well, the easy one, because it's actually the first, it's also easy to get rid of. It's the first one that brought me to council meetings, and that is the $85 permit fee for a $100 fence repair. That whenever the neighbor had reported that, and she is a widow type thing, I was in disbelief for how little $100 can buy at Home Depot or Lowe's these days. So that didn't make a lot of sense. So what's the resolve for that? Well, I think if one were to have a fence in place, essentially, and I've already paid the $85 fee or whatever it was way back then, essentially that fee should be waived if you present a, hey, I've called before I did phone call, and basically I'm not changing the structure of my fence. It still complies with the city regulations. In our case, for residential areas, it's usually 6 feet high type thing. So that's an easy one to address. I would point out that the same issue was in prior comprehensive plans, not just the fences, but punitive permitting that's not related to health or safety type thing that was recognized as being obstructing progress in the past comprehensive plan. So basically, it's been an issue for a long time. But like I said, the easiest one to get rid of, I think, would be that $85 permit for fence repairs.
My first thought was, well, fence permits. But then if I look up and my neighbor puts up a giant fence, I can call the city and they can fix it. So my primary is fence permits. But if we started looking to it, it would be, I'd like to tell you an above ground pool shouldn't have to have a permit. But again, that's a life safety issue. So I get why it has to be there, as much as I don't like that. If I want to do a remodeling permit, okay, if I'm doing anything that affects the value of my house, I get it. So those, I'm thinking that would be it, but yeah, that's not it. It would be a plumbing permit, because my plumber is a licensed master plumber, and he's going to come in and do his job. That's been his job for years. Let him come in, do it so he can do his job, close it up, and make it safe again. Because, he's not always working inside your house. A lot of times they're working outside your house. They have to open a trench, fix that. Now we've got to wait for it to get inspected. Then all these pieces. Well, guess what? If there's a wet spot in your yard after he's done, he didn't do his job. You need to call him back out. So I think that we need to have a review of our plumbing permits, but that's there's a bunch I would like to see go away, but I can argue for them just as easily. So.
That's a tough one, because another philosophy of mine, when it comes to owner-occupied residential property, if safety is not a valid issue, there should be no permit requirement, period. Okay? Now, the regulations and the codes, we need to also go through all of those. As small as Universal City is, I have downloaded our city charter and printed it out. It's over 700 pages. That's a whole lot of codes and regulations. And some of them are, well, this is for public audiences, so some of them are just wrong. But a permit, see, because if I was going to address the permit beef I've heard more than any others. If a storm knocks down your fence and you have to repair, if all you're doing is just putting it up, if you have to repair more than 8 linear feet of your backyard fence, you have to get a permit. That's outrageous. That's ridiculous. Okay? I mean, in Universal City, you're allowed to mow your grass. You can plant shrubs. You can even paint the inside of your house. They'll let you replace the floor. You do anything else, you better have a permit. I mean, at what point does a city go back to just regulating and stop the micromanagement? Are we living in a republic or something else?
Question number 7. What's the latest with the Aviation District?
That's a really great question. What is the latest with the Aviation District? My issue, it's not really an issue, but I mean, I guess I can't really answer that because all the property that the city's bought to redo Aviation District has been done in closed door sessions. So I couldn't tell you how much they're spending, how much it's worth. I have no idea if the aviation plan is even a good plan for the city. I don't think really anyone does. It's either going to be a great thing for the city or it's going to be a money pit. Ideally, I'd like the city to do an audit and an actual presentation, letting the city council and the residents get to see how much their properties are costing, what the payout's going to be, if it's a good investment, if it's something that the city should be investing in general. Without numbers and a clear timeline, I honestly cannot tell you if the aviation district is great or if it's going to ever happen. I don't know how much we're spending and I don't know what we're going to get in return. So it's all unknown.
Ooh, that's a good one. I was lucky enough to be part of the focus group to meet with kind of the folks that were coming in to put together the proposal for the city. They had just had random citizens that they picked out. I'm not sure how that got on that list, but I was thrilled to get on that list. So kind of talked around. And my husband and I have also been people that have traveled a lot, and we have always kind of gone to those unique spaces within communities. In Omaha, we had an old market. In Kansas City, there was a power and light district, and we've just really liked those. So I was really excited to talk about the possibility of how do we build a space or develop a space in Universal City that supports life at night. And so there's a plan for the aviation district to develop an area of town where people could get out and walk their dogs, walk with their kids, go play at a park, maybe go to an amphitheater, listen to music, sit out and watch planes fly over during the day. But restaurants, coffee shops, breweries, wine bars, whatever. And you would just have options. You could park, you could walk around, there would be shopping. I see it as a very positive thing for our community. I think if you think about like what they've done in the Pearl, and if we could do that on a smaller scale here in Universal City, I think it would be really appealing for people that have come, that are in New Braunfels or Cibolo or even down in San Antonio to come to Universal City and spend their money where they're going out and having a good time in the evening. Not necessarily dancing till 2. That's not what I picture, and that's not what I've heard presented. It's been just some place where you could go and spend time with your family out in the evening, get an ice cream cone, have a glass of wine, and just enjoy yourself. So that's kind of what's going on with it. That's what it is. And I know it's progressing. The last presentation I saw that was at City Council was they were showing where they potentially were proposing a park that would have the amphitheater. It was different than the original presentation, so it had moved further in, but that was based on the property that the city could buy. So I think that they're definitely making great progress on getting that developed. I know they mentioned a 10-year plan. Probably won't be done in 10 years, but it will be started.
Well, we just got a presentation at council meetings on an update on the aviation district. And basically, at this point in time, $2.5 million have already been spent in the aviation district. And the remainder of the bond, it was a total bond of $3.5 million. And so that's essentially where we're at as far as the bond is concerned. However, here's the issue. Presented to the citizens was a great plan for redoing the aviation district. So essentially bonds were approved, but is that the limit of where funding will go in the future? So for example, when you pull up the aviation district website, you take a look at the statuses of March 2023, you find that essentially the grand total right now is 5.7, almost $5.8 million. So part of the problem is if one presents a nice plan to the city, one should be able to stay within those budget and watch for the morphing of additional finances that go into it, which is coming out of our tax money one way or another. The other thing that I think is good about the aviation, plan is that there's one business that has been extraordinarily successful. That's the Gather Brewery. However, that business received $500,000 in EDC funds in order to help make it successful. If we walk down the street just a little bit, a restaurant that started perhaps a year and a half ago, but because of COVID went out of business, that I'm sure didn't receive that amount of funding. So I think we have to be kind of careful about the extended funds that go into projects that sound good, look good on paper, but yet morph into something that in this particular case is already is approaching 2 times the size and not anywhere near done of the original bond that was that the citizens supported. I think all councils have to be sensitive to that.
Basically, it is moving and grooving. We are, when Gather Brewing came to the EDC and said, this is what we'd like to do, I fell in love with it. I was so excited. But then we kind of looked at the plan and we had some ideas and, of course I had some other ideas and, no, I was not the architect. I'm not bitter about that, guys, but whatever. I love that place and the people are fantastic. Anyway, Gather became kind of what we call our catalyst for the aviation district. They show what it can be. And we're trying to continue to work with property owners that are looking to sell, to buy properties if they're available. Again, we are not going to pay over market value. We can't. There's certain things we, as a municipality, we just can't do. We can't pay exorbitant amounts for property that's not market value. So that's another misconception, is that we're either kicking people out or we're paying too much. But there's, like Gather is down there. Then across Pat Booker, we had Rapid Fired Pizza that came in, took over the old Subway building that was an old 7-Eleven and old this. And Rapid Fired Pizza is just fantastic. We've had some of the properties adjacent to Rapid Fire that are going to become a food truck court with a building, so you can go inside and eat, or you can stay outside and eat. Those are kind of some of our more recent wins. The EDC has helped out with helping funding with Gather. We helped out with aspects for Rapid Fired. The food truck court, we helped out with some of that piece. We also have been working on some of the streets in that area to help make sure that it's not, just a beat down street in that location. Plus we're redoing the infrastructure down there for the water and the other utilities. It's on its way. Yes, I know aviation took way too long, but it was, I can go not, into detail, but we're not going to. It's on its way. The city had a community involvement where we where the city developed a plan. We had developers that that came in, not developers, but guys that do this for a living, came in and said, look, this is what the market would support. This is how we can make it we can make these different pieces all work together. And it's proven in other areas. So it's not a recipe. Oh, I need 2 more seconds. It's not a recipe that's, do this and bake it this long. But here's the pieces, and they can all work together and make it a destination area for the city.
The Aviation District. Once again, I go into full detail about my overall consideration of the Aviation District Master Plan, but to keep it brief here, I think, first of all, a better title for the Aviation District Master Plan would be the Universal City Gentrification Project, because that's what it is, pure and simple. If they were successful and got it all done, never mind all the businesses and the people that are going to be displaced, they're going to bring in maybe as much as an additional 3,000 residents in that one tiny little area, because they want to put up all apartments, row houses, and there's a schedule for a bunch of little bitty, what I call garden homes. A rental utopia, if you will. And if you put 3,000 people in there, these people all buy groceries. What's it going to do to how busy HEB is? It's already crowded. They all have to drive to the grocery store. They've got to commute to work and back and go there and do the things that people do. People that are going to the air base every day are just going to love that, especially at rush hour. And Randolph Brooks, I asked the city manager, it cannot be widened. So what are they thinking, or are they? I think it's a case where, once again, the people making these decisions are misguided. If not, they're withholding information and they're misrepresenting it to the public. You can find the actual Aviation District Master Plan, the concept plan. The easiest way to get to it is go to my website, groundedlogic.com, find my article on the Aviation District Master Plan, and there's a big blue link. Click on that. It takes you straight to the plan so you can see what I'm talking about. Once you get past all the sugar and spice and everything nice, you're going to find out that it's evil. It's wrong. It does not serve the public at all, especially if you live there or if you live in the surrounding area. I don't know. I don't get it. I just don't get it. If I had my way, and we can always try. If I had my way, the Aviation District Master Plan would be immediately suspended and reconsidered. Period.
Question number 8 comes from Cheryl Maxwell. What community services or boards have you been involved with that qualifies you to earn a seat on the city council?
All right, so I'm going to take that as 2 parts. I'm going to share my volunteering. So I've been volunteering for charity since high school. My parents taught me at a really young age that you give back as much as you can, and as much time as you have, you should give back. My family, since we've lived here, has volunteered at the pumpkin patch every year. We've done the trunk or treat every year. I enjoy passing out candy to the little kids. My kids and I have filled eggs several years for the Easter egg hunt for the city. We've hosted National Night Out for 4 years in a row with all of our neighbors, and it's really important to me to get to know all my neighbors. I like seeing the police department out there and helping everyone. Pretty much anytime the city makes a request for volunteers, my family's out there helping and volunteering. On top of volunteering for the city, every year my family chooses a charity to give back to. 2 years ago, we donated hundreds of items to the Universal City Animal Shelter. They had like a list of things that they needed, and our family helped out with that. Last year, my husband and I alone bought 415 toys to help out Angel Helpers Ministry for Christmas. That was really special. And we also help out our local church, Grace Community, whenever they need help with food for the teen night. I also do balloon garlands for a lot of the church events, just something I'm skilled at. When it comes to committees, you have to remember I'm 35. I'm young. I have 3 kids that I've been raising. So I've been very busy with that. But in the last about year and a half, my kids have gotten a lot more self-sufficient, which means that I've had more opportunities to be able to get involved in city politics. When I was doing my research, I realized I could be on a board, but if I go on a board, I can't serve on city council unless you serve on the EDC. And so while I could affect change on the EDC, I find it incredibly biased that our city allows city council members to serve on the EDC and be on council. We have 3 people running right now who are all on the EDC, and I find it wildly biased that they get to bring things to council and then they also get to vote on the items that they brought to council. No other board or department gets to vote on things that they bring to council. So while, yes, you could serve on a board and serve on city council, I find that incredibly biased, and it's just not something I'm interested in doing.
Well, I personally think this is a great question because I have done a lot of those types of activities. I have served on planning and zoning. I did that for several years. I was part of the vote when we had the shelter that they were proposing, putting it into one of the school districts. We had that come before us a couple different times in a couple different formats. Was part of a vote that had to do with trash cans, which is ironic because hindsight being 2020, I've actually been called out on my vote for that. Somebody posted on social media that I wouldn't vote for Christina because she voted that we needed to put our trash cans in bins. And absolutely I did. But that's because I came from someplace where we hauled our trash cans back through the snow into our backyard. Never were they out in front. So never really had been around that. I think now, hindsight being 2020, I'm okay with that vote. So it's been interesting. That was a great experience. I got to see how my votes impacted people and how I would maybe consider things differently. I'm also on the EDC, and that's a new one. I was just appointed to that in August, and I'm really excited about that one because I'm really passionate about really looking at what do we do with our economic development, because I really firmly believe that that is critical in being able to be in a position to manage our property tax for our residents. So I've served on both of those boards and committees, and then I've just been active in the community overall. I try to serve at events to help make those go off, and that's both for residents, like the Easter egg hunt, what's coming up tomorrow, I'll be out there, to the pumpkin patch, where I live out at the pumpkin patch all of October. And last year I was part of helping bring in over $50,000 to local nonprofits through the pumpkin patch and through the Citizens Police Academy. So, and I will make a plug for the Citizens Police Academy. That was the very first thing I did when we moved to Universal City. We'd moved in December. I think in March, we started the Citizens Police Academy. And that really was a springboard for us to learn about the community that we were living in and figuring out ways to get involved. And so right from the jump, we were like, we like this place and we want to help support it be a great place to live. And so we've actively been involved with making Universal City a great place to be.
That's kind of a good question. Basically, I'd look Cheryl in the eye and I would say, Cheryl, every month I spend over 100 hours volunteering service at Brook Army Medical Center. My talents are in research and supporting cardiology. I have a passion for taking care of information that's associated with patient care. So basically, if that's not considered community service, I would challenge you to provide an equivalent value of community service in your area. So basically, not only hours but commitment, and there's nothing better than taking care of a military retiree or an active duty person. So that's my commitment.
Community services. Let's see. I've been our block captain for National Night Out several years, quite a few years, I should say. I've missed a few here and there, but for the mainstay, I have been our block captain for National Night Out. I, as a Watchdog Dad at Olympia. Volunteered with that, became one of the spokespeople for that sort of activity. I was a scout leader, and if you can imagine handling a bunch of Cub Scouts, you can understand what city council is like. If you, I was a Girl Scout leader for a while. Let's see, other activities like that. Worked with the PTO at Olympia. I have been on I'm on the school board for a charter school. I have worked with a lot of businesses in Universal City. I have volunteered at a lot of the different city-run events. I mean, you from Snowfest to the movies in the parks to, and one of my favorites was the adult movie at the golf course. No, Jason, not that kind of. It was a parents' night out type of thing. I have been on the EDC for, I think, 10 years, maybe longer. We've seen with the EDC, we have seen so many businesses come in. The things that we have helped to bring into our city. I just, we like the Mega Furniture was a big one because that helped to revitalize that corner, that shopping center that sat empty for so long. And now look at it, you've got Bubba's, you've got Orange Theory, you've got the new one. It was Wayback Burgers. You've something else now. You've got the development just down Pat Booker. Anyway, so that's the EDC side of life. Let's see. I've been on council for a while now, and I do believe that I enjoy meeting with different people to talk about what their topics, what their issues are, and helping find a way to get there. I'm not knocking on every door, asking everybody about every question, but people know they can reach out to me, and it's rare that I don't respond. If you don't ask me a question, if you just complain about something, I may not respond, but if you have a question in there, I will definitely respond to that question. But it's, I think that's a pretty good list of the items. So thank you very much, Cheryl Maxwell.
Oh, so nice for her to ask. I think, first of all, being a volunteer is a very gracious thing to do if you've got the time and the talent. We've got the Pumpkin Patch and we've got the Winterfest. And then we've got the volunteers that really put their time out in being on all these boards and commissions. But there's an issue there because right now, 3 of my opponents are associated with the Economic Development Corporation. One's a treasurer and 2 are directors. Now, the Economic Development Corporation has to get their actions approved through the city council. Well, if 3 of our council members are also in the Economic Development Corporation, what's the point? I mean, why even bother to waste the ink with a rubber stamp? All right. It's legal. They've got it written so in the charter. Still unethical. It's wrong. Anyone who serves on the city council, that should be the one and only thing they do for the city. They're supposed to represent the citizens. They're not supposed to represent the administration. They're not supposed to represent their own personal interests. If they have a personal interest, they want the people to be behind. Okay? They're counselors. Counsel the people. And that starts, by the way, with being forthright with information, letting the people know what's going on. The 2 representatives, well, 2 of the 3 representatives, 2 new faces that we got on the council last year have done an amazing job. And that's, to my opinion, is the only reason that the city broke with tradition and did not raise our personal property tax rate this year. If it wasn't for Phil Vaughn and Stephen Buck, they'd still bumped it again. So hopefully I can get on the board and back them up. I'm in it for the people, for the common person, not someone who's got his own special interest or dream.
Question number 9 comes from Universal City Councilman Phil Vaughn. If the golf course revenues do not cover its cost, should it be subsidized by taxpayers?
No, it should not be subsidized by taxpayers. My firm position on the venue tax and the golf course is that the citizens should get to decide whether they want to keep it or not. I'm not anti-golf course. If we want to keep the golf course and it can provide for itself, I think that's wonderful. But my main thing is the citizens should get to decide, not city council, not the city. The citizens should get to vote in November whether they would like to continue to fund this golf course or whether they would like to change it into something different. Obviously, my personal opinion is a street maintenance tax. Everyone uses streets. It goes a lot farther. However, it's really up to the citizens, and that's my entire platform on it. The citizens should get to decide whether they want to continue to fund the golf course or not.
That's a good question. And I think I appreciate the opportunity to give that some thought. It seems like the golf course currently and in the last few years has been operating in the black, and they've been paying for themselves. Both the event center and the golf course are supporting their cost, which I think is great. Do I think that that would always be the case? Absolutely not. We don't know what's going to happen with the economy and inflation. And obviously, golf is kind of a discretionary expense for people to spend. But it also seems like we're trending very well in the golf space in San Antonio. We just got the number 3 course in San Antonio by People's Choice Awards. We're behind JW Marriott and the Brackenridge course, which is the oldest course in San Antonio. That's huge for Universal City that we have the number 3 course according to the people that voted in the San Antonio area. That means people know us. They're coming. And part of that came because we stayed open during COVID. We were the only course that was allowing people to get out and walk the course. And so there's a lot of people that found us. And guess what? They're coming back. So, yes, I do believe that the golf course should be in a position to be paying for itself. Now, I also recognize the fact that they have worked really hard to get to the place where they are operating to cover their expenses. Now we need to do some investment in the infrastructure there. We need to make some improvements in the wedding space. The wedding space is also award-winning. We've been getting the number 1 small wedding venue in the San Antonio area, which is also significant. But one of the reasons brides don't pick us is because we don't have a good bride suite. The bride suite was made out of an office. It doesn't have a bathroom. As a matter of fact, the bride has to walk through the entryway to the golf course, through the golfers, and go use the public restrooms that golfers are in, which isn't bad. But really, when you're in your wedding dress, or maybe when your hair's up in curlers and you're in a bathrobe and you're still getting your makeup done, is that what you want to do? No, it's a reason why people are going away from us. So I think we need to put money in to the golf course, not as an ongoing expense, but to go ahead and make that investment and really make that a first-in-class facility that's going to serve our community well. That is our marketing dollars to draw people to Universal City right now. We don't have the Aviation District yet. We don't have the area developed behind HEB. We have the golf course. The golf course is bringing people to Universal City, and we need to support that and make it shine.
The golf course is an enterprise operation. It was introduced to the citizens, voted and approved by the citizens as an enterprise operation, with the guarantee at that time that it would be a revenue generator. Okay. If we compare it to other enterprise operations within this city, for example, water and sewer, okay, there's no question that water and sewer essentially have a business plan to sustain operations. The problem that we have in the golf course is that if we, after 21 years, have not established a business plan to sustain operations, what guarantees are there that essentially we will have that business plan go forward? When I ask the question of where is the business plan for the golf course to our city councilor and our city manager, this is the answer I got. The city manager stated, we meet once a month and discuss general goals. Once a month and discuss general goals for a project that has cost us $18 million in venue tax, plus an additional multi-million dollars from the general fund. The other thing that's a little difficult to understand is how council can continually approve loans for the golf course in the case of the golf course for golf carts, essentially commercial loans for over $300,000 a pop, totaling over $660,000, and essentially say that's not, that's just gratis from the taxpayers. Well, that can't be so. It has to be part of golf course operations. The golf course takes $100,000 a year just the water. Okay, so basically, if we have a good business plan, a sound business plan that would take care of the needs of the golf course, not only for this year, but also the extended needs for upkeep of the golf course and so forth, it would be wonderful. I'm going to hold up that your viewers probably can't see, but essentially this is a graphic that shows income and expenditures for the golf course. And you'll notice, for example, that the expenditures for the golf course rise faster than the income. The only reason in 2021, that's the last I have this audit information, the only reason that it's only $50,000 short of expenses is because during this period of time, there's about a $660,000 and infusion from the venue tax.
That's a great question. Thanks, Phil. I had a feeling that one would come up. As far as a subsidy from the taxpayers, a lot of people don't like to consider the golf course as an amenity that the city has. The people are like, it's not like the library. Well, it is. It's just not in your viewpoint. It's an amenity. The library is an amenity. Other municipalities don't have libraries. The splash pad is an amenity. Our parks are amenities. The golf course is an amenity. It's also a large investment that the city has. So people think that the golf course is only for a select few. I know that I have talked with the staff about how can we make it more inclusive. We've spitballed some ideas, and I'm really excited about some of the possibilities of that. So if there's an area that's associated with the golf course, is that going to be considered the golf course in the future, or can the city work on that park without making somebody upset? I believe that the golf course currently has about 70,000 visitors a year. That's a lot of people coming into Universal City. That's an investment. Those people are coming into town. They'll eat at the golf course or they won't. They may go and eat at one of our restaurants we've got in town. As people drive through, it has the appearance that it is a private club, but it's open to the public. Anybody can go there. My office located in Universal City, we can go there anytime we want for lunch. We can go there to have a drink. We can go there on Thursday nights for happy hour. I think it needs to be really thought of in all different lights. If it's exclusive, then no, that's not something that the citizens need to bear the cost of. But it's not exclusive, so anybody can use it. some of the pieces that we've looked at are, what else could you do with it? Well, it's in a floodplain, guys. I'm sorry. And, you know, who's going to, this, nobody wants to build in a floodplain, and that you really can't. So I like the idea of having something that is used by 70,000 people. I've had other people say you could do this or that or this or that. And when you go and look at their ideas, I'm not bringing 70,000 people to a location with a lot of the ideas that have been thrown out there. So I think there's some responsibility, but not the brunt.
No. As I said earlier, if the golf course cannot maintain its equipment, maintain its structure, maintain the course, do all of that, and still turn a profit, if it can't do that, there's a problem, and it's not the golf course, right? I would like to see both the EDC and the golf course audited by an independent company, brought in by the city council, not the city. The city council needs to decide who to bring in. Let these two entities be audited, and then consultants need to be hired who will come in and go over the results of the audit and make recommendations. And this all needs to be done in the sunshine, in an open forum where citizens can even ask questions. Once we do that, I think we'll find out in a short matter of time, the golf course will be profitable. And I'd like to know just exactly where all the EDC is spending its money, other than buying up all the real estate it can in the aviation district.
Question number 10. Is there anything else you want to leave the voters with?
Well, I think one question you didn't ask that I think you should continue to ask for all of yours is why you should vote for me. A lot of people are concerned about transparency and the lack of communication from the city. I believe what I bring to the table is communication and easily able and willing to find answers for the citizens' complaints and issues. My experience in talking with department heads, asking questions, and relaying that information to citizens is highly superior compared to other council members who rarely or never even answer an email when a citizen has a concern or an issue. I'll make sure any citizen who comes to me with an issue will get an answer. It may not be the exact resolution that they wanted, but they can never say that I didn't try to at least give them all the options and get the answers that they needed. I also just wanted to thank you for inviting me today. I think that's really awesome. Like I said, our city doesn't have a candidate forum, so this podcast is as close as it gets to one. I think it's really important for people to know who's running and who's out there, so especially when they see pink signs all over town, they can put a face with the sign.
I want people to know that I am approachable. I have a website, www.fitzpatrick4FORUC.com. I'm available via email. I'm posted a phone number in the community impact that I will be answered. I will meet with people. One of the things that I am going to start doing later this month is I'm going to have coffee at Four Kings on Saturday morning from like 9 to 11. And I invite people to come out. I'm going to be paying for the coffee, and you can sit there and get to know me, ask me questions, bring up concerns. And if I'm elected, when I'm elected, I'm going to continue to do that once a month so that people can get out. Don't necessarily want to have an agenda. I just want to hang out. And if somebody wants to stop by and talk to me for a little bit, it'll kind of be my opportunity to be available so that you don't have to call me. You can just stop in and come talk. But I want folks to know that I'm paying attention. I want Universal City to be great. I want to think about Universal City now, what's good for us now. But I also want to think about us for future generations. My husband and I have lived that. He graduated from high school here in '64. We've been coming here since the 90s. Our kids grew up here. We're invested in this area. We love this area. And I want to make sure that my kids can bring back their kids and their kids can bring back their kids to Universal City and love it as much as we do.
Yes. Okay. Basically, make sure that you're present when councils are making critical decisions about budgets, okay? Make sure you have some mechanism of voicing your input for those budgets. Currently, our budgeting process does not allow that. We get the same amount of time as we do in council meetings. You stand up for 3 minutes, you say, oh, please make sure that you consider our priorities first. And then you sit down, and council then is given the water hose to try to sort out what is essentially priority versus what is not. So attend council meetings, attend budget workshops, and vote. That's the best thing that you could do.
Basically, I'm a husband, father, business owner. I've been in Universal City over 20 years. I don't play favorites. Look at my record, see where I have questioned the city. I have argued with the city. I have worked with the city and when I say the city, I mean staff, to make sure that plans that come out are vetted. Not everything needs to have a 30-minute discussion or a 3-minute timer behind it. There's a lot of times that I have gone, I will go and meet with staff on a Monday or Tuesday during the day before our meetings and worked through our issues that come up. I don't do everything out in public and, at the dais out there. I do go in and we work through some of the issues. When people contact me, I happily pass that information along. You can ask Randy, our public works director. I send him emails regularly, saying this is that, this needs to be taken care of. That needs to be taken care of. I've been involved in the community. I have cut my teeth on economic development. Really. In Universal City, I feel like if you look at the vision that we have for Universal City, I'm not going to be the guy that sells it short because it doesn't have an immediate payoff. I mean, we're not all, that millennial generation that says, oh, it doesn't work, let's move to the next thing. It's not working yet. It takes time to develop. And now it's paying off. It's an investment. It's not immediate. It's not a house flip. It doesn't work that way. So what do I want them to know about me? Man, Kevin, I have put the last 8 to 10 years service to this community. And, I don't plan on it stopping anytime soon.
Anything else I want to leave the voters with? Yeah. I'll put it all out there. Whether or not I get on the council is not that big a deal to me. I see a need. I'm offering my services. I'm empathetic. I have a good heart, and I have a logical mind. I understand the average plight of everyone. And what I don't understand, I'm interested in learning. I just want to do what's right for everybody because, when we do what's right for everybody else, that's what we get ourselves. So it's not about me. What's about me is doing the best job I can to get elected. As long as I do that, it doesn't matter if I win or lose. May sound sanctimonious, but I truly believe it'll be a detriment to the city if I do. It won't hurt me none. Can I endorse other candidates? If Ashton Bulman gets on the city council and either me or Bernie get on there, we'll be in much better hands. All right. So I mean, that's how I'm voting. I'm voting for Ashton. I'm voting for Bernie. And, of course, I'm going to vote for myself. And although, in a way, I think I might actually be the best choice, I'll be tickled pink if those two get on, because I think the other four are not going to be good for the average person. And it's not saying they're bad people. They're all good people. Everybody on the council, I like them all. I just think they're misguided.
He's got to compose himself. This takes a minute. Usually he'll say a couple Hail Marys.
So are you also in favor of closing down the disc golf course? Do you agree with firing Kim Turner immediately after being elected?
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
just kidding. Thank you, Bernard Rubal. I want to thank you very much for mentioning Selma before I did.
We ain't even started the show yet, and you're already bragging about Selma.
Are we recording?
Nope.
Man, I hate my wife.
Nope, we're not recording at all. Just tell me more about how you hate your wife.
It used to be the freedom clock, but there's not a lot of freedom in Universal City, so we're going to
Tyranny
do 3
clock
minutes.
now. It's a tyranny clock.
All right, yeah.
Tyranny.
Yeah, tyranny, that's right. Tyranny
Tyranny
clock.
clock.
Fire inspector almost shut him down, though.
Didn't? What do you mean almost?
That's when you invited me to be a part of this.
Yeah,
I
was
just
like,
realized
I
that
gotta
timing-
I gotta have friends in high places.
I'm asking you to do me a favor and put on this hat right now.
Oh, boy.
Ladies and gentlemen, we do have a first here in the studio.
Well, you should have given this to me at the beginning. I would have done all the questions with this. If elected, are you going to wear a blue shirt if pink is not an option?
That is a great question.
That's a joke.
Sorry you had to deal with this clown today. Thank you for coming in.
You were a joy.